I ordered a new bag online without even checking the price. That was normal for me. Whenever I wanted something, I got it. I never had to wait. I never had to ask twice. My father always said yes. My name is Farah. I grew up in a big, beautiful house in Amman, Jordan. It had 3 floors, large windows, and a garden full of orange trees. Every morning, someone brought me breakfast in bed. Someone cleaned my room. Someone drove me anywhere I wanted to go. Life felt soft and easy, like I was living in a dream. At school, I did not try very hard. I did not worry about my future. If I failed a test, my father talked to the teacher. If I didn't like a subject, he paid for a new tutor. I didn't think I needed to work. My friends said I lived in a bubble. I agreed, but I liked my bubble. It was quiet and safe. I didn't think about the world outside. I only thought about fun. I wore expensive clothes and ate in the best restaurants. I traveled to different countries whenever I felt bored. Life seemed perfect. One summer morning, I woke up at 11:30. My phone had many messages. A friend wanted to meet for sushi. Another asked if I wanted to fly to Istanbul for the weekend. I smiled. I didn't have a job. I didn't have plans. I didn't have stress. I replied yes to both. I got dressed and went downstairs. My father was reading the newspaper in the kitchen. He looked a little tired, but I didn't notice back then. I kissed his cheek and said I wanted to go to Istanbul. He didn't answer right away. He folded the newspaper and looked at me. He asked if I knew how much a plane ticket cost. I laughed and said no, but he did. He smiled, but something in his face looked serious. That evening, he called me into his office. I walked in, playing with my hair, thinking he would say yes like always. But he didn't. He sat back in his chair and said I was not a child anymore. I smiled and said, I know. But his eyes didn't smile back. He said I was living like life would always stay the same. He said one day I might need to live without him. That sentence surprised me. I didn't know how to answer. My father had always taken care of everything. I couldn't imagine a world without him. I thought he was just having a bad day, so I left the room. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. On the table in the kitchen there was a note. It said, "Come outside. We are going somewhere." I was confused. I went out and saw my father waiting in the car. I got in. He didn't say much. He just started driving. We left our neighborhood. We passed through streets I had never seen before. There were small shops and old buildings. People were walking quickly. Some were carrying heavy bags. Others were sitting by the road selling vegetables. I had never paid attention to these parts of the city before. Everything felt different. He stopped the car near a market. We walked through a narrow street. I smelled fresh bread. A man was lifting heavy bags of flour into a truck. He was sweating, but he didn't stop. My father pointed to him and said, "He works all day, every day." We walked past a tiny shop. Inside, an old woman was sewing clothes. Her hands moved fast. Her face looked tired, but she kept working. My father said she had been doing that work for many years. I didn't say anything. I just looked at them. I had never thought about these people before. I knew they existed, but I never really saw them. We got back in the car and drove to my father's office. I had only been there a few times. I never stayed long. I just came to ask for money. He walked me through the busy office. People were talking on phones. Some were typing. Others were walking quickly with papers in their hands. No one looked at me. They were too busy. He took me to a small desk in the back corner. He said, "This will be your desk. You start tomorrow." I looked at him. I thought he was joking, but his face was serious. He said I needed to learn how to live and work. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and followed him back to the car. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the man with the flower and the woman sewing clothes. I thought about the workers in my father's office. I felt something strange. I had never felt it before. Maybe it was worry. Maybe it was fear. But it was also something new. A part of me wanted to understand more. I didn't know how, but I wanted to try. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. I put on simple clothes. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't wear perfume. My father gave me a small lunch bag. I opened it and saw a sandwich and a fruit. I asked if we could stop at a cafe. He said, "No. Workers bring their lunch." I didn't argue. I got into the car. At the office, he didn't walk me in. He pointed to the building and said, "Good luck." I took a deep breath and walked inside. A man named Mr. Omar met me at the door. He didn't smile. He took me to my desk. He gave me a big stack of papers and said, "Check the numbers. If you find a mistake, mark it." I looked at the papers. There were so many. I started reading. At first, it didn't seem hard. But after an hour, my head started to hurt. The numbers looked the same. My eyes were tired. My hand was sore from writing. I wanted to stop, but I didn't. At lunch, I opened the bag. I sat alone and ate quietly. The food was plain, but I was hungry. I looked around. No one was playing on their phone. No one was talking loudly. Everyone was focused. They finished eating and went back to work. I followed them. The afternoon was harder than the morning. My back hurt from sitting. My fingers were stiff. I looked at the clock many times. I wanted the day to end, but I stayed. I didn't leave early. At the end of the day, I walked outside. My father was waiting. He didn't ask how I felt. He just looked at me and nodded. I didn't speak either. I was too tired. But inside, I felt something different. I had worked. I had tried. It was not a big success, but it was real. It was mine. That night, I didn't feel like watching TV or texting friends. I took a shower, ate dinner, and went to bed early. My body felt heavy. My mind was full. I kept thinking about the people I had seen, the work I had done, and how different the day had been. I used to think I was strong because I had everything. But now, I was learning that real strength comes from effort, from showing up, from trying again, even when it's hard. That was only the first day, but something in me had started to change. I didn't know where this road would lead. I didn't know if I could do this for a week or a month. But I knew one thing. I didn't want to go back to the old me. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm again. My body was sore, especially my back and hands. But I didn't stay in bed. I got up, brushed my hair, and wore the same simple clothes I wore yesterday. I tied my shoes and went downstairs. My father was already in the kitchen, sipping his tea. He didn't speak much. He just handed me the lunch bag and nodded. I nodded back. That small exchange felt important. It felt like we were starting to understand each other in a new way. At the office, Mr. Omar was waiting for me. He didn't greet me. He just pointed to the same desk and dropped a stack of papers in front of me. "Work faster today," he said. I didn't argue. I just sat down and began checking the numbers. My hands moved a little faster than yesterday. I made fewer mistakes. I started to notice patterns in the numbers. The work still felt hard, but it also felt possible. At lunch, I ate with the same quiet group of people. I listened to them talk about their children, their parents, and their worries. One woman said her electricity had been cut off for 2 days. A man said he was saving to fix his car. I didn't speak, but I listened carefully. These were things I had never thought about. In my old world, if something broke, I replaced it. If I wanted something, I bought it. But these people worked all day just to take care of the basics. Their lives were not easy, but they didn't complain. They just kept going. In the afternoon, I finished my work early. I checked it twice before handing it to Mr. Omar. He looked through the pages and nodded. "Better," he said. Just one word, but it felt like a gift. I smiled quietly and went back to my desk. That moment stayed with me for the rest of the day. It felt better than buying a new phone or going on a trip. It felt real. When the day ended, my father picked me up again. He didn't say anything right away. We sat in silence as he drove. Then, when we stopped at a red light, he looked at me and asked, "Tired?" I said yes. He smiled and said, "Good." That one word had more meaning than a long speech. It meant he understood. It meant he saw I was trying. That night, I ate dinner slowly. I thought about everything I had seen and felt over the past 2 days. My world had changed so quickly. Just last week, I was planning a weekend trip with my friends. Now, I was learning how to work, how to focus, and how to be part of something. I didn't miss my old life. I didn't miss the lazy mornings or the expensive dinners. I felt something better. I felt useful. Over the next few weeks, the days followed the same pattern. I woke up early, dressed simply, and worked from morning until evening. I still made mistakes, but fewer than before. Mr. Omar began to trust me with more tasks. Sometimes he let me explain things to new interns. That surprised me. I had never taught anyone before, but I found that I liked it. I liked helping others understand something new. It made me feel proud. I also began to understand how the office worked. I saw how different departments connected. I saw how problems were solved step by step. I watched my father from a distance. He moved from meeting to meeting. People asked him questions all day. He always stayed calm. He made hard decisions. He was kind, but strong. For the first time, I saw what he really did. And for the first time, I respected it. One Friday, near the end of the day, he called me into his office. I sat down quietly, not knowing what to expect. He looked at me and asked how I felt. I said I felt tired but happy. He smiled. Then he opened a drawer and took out a small key. He placed it on the table in front of me. I looked at it, confused. He said it was the key to a small office upstairs. He said I had earned it. I didn't know what to say. I had never imagined having my own office. It was small, of course, but it was mine. I thanked him and held the key in my hand. It felt heavy, not because of the metal, but because of what it meant. It meant trust. It meant growth. It meant I was not just his daughter anymore. I was part of his world now. On Monday, I moved into the new office. I had a desk, a chair, and a window that looked over the street. I decorated the space with a small plant and a photo of my family. I kept everything simple. I didn't want to bring my old habits into this new space. I wanted it to be a place of work, learning, and responsibility. Soon after, I was given my first small project. I had to manage a report for the finance team. I worked with 2 other employees. At first, they were quiet around me. I understood why. They thought I was just the boss's daughter. But I listened to their ideas. I asked questions. I worked just as hard as they did. Slowly, they began to open up. By the end of the week, we had finished the report together. They even invited me to sit with them during lunch. That small moment meant a lot to me. At home, things also changed. My father no longer treated me like a child. We talked about work during dinner. He asked for my opinions. Sometimes I gave him ideas. Not all of them were good, but he listened anyway. My mother watched us with quiet joy. She said I looked more confident. I felt more confident too. One evening, I passed the bakery where the old man worked. I remembered the first day my father brought me there. That memory stayed fresh in my mind. I walked in and bought some bread. I thanked him politely. He didn't recognize me, but that was okay. I remembered him. I owed him more than he knew. He was one of the first people who showed me what real work looked like. The more I worked, the more I learned. I learned how to speak clearly, how to listen, and how to solve problems. I made mistakes, of course. Some days were harder than others. But I didn't give up. I kept going. Every evening when I walked out of the office, I felt tired. But it was a good kind of tired. It was the kind that made me sleep deeply at night. One day, my old friend texted me. She said she missed me and wanted to go shopping. I looked at the message and thought about it. Then I replied, "Maybe another time." It was a simple answer, but it showed how much I had changed. Shopping didn't excite me like it used to. I didn't need more things. I needed more meaning. That week, I helped a new worker finish her first report. She was nervous and kept saying she wasn't smart enough. I sat with her for an hour and helped her fix the mistakes. She thanked me with tears in her eyes. I felt something deep in my heart. I had never felt that kind of happiness before. It was quiet, strong, and real. At the end of that week, my father invited me to a company dinner. I wore a plain dress and simple shoes. When we arrived, many people came to shake his hand. Some of them shook mine too. They said I was doing well. My father didn't say much, but he smiled the whole evening. I felt proud, not because of my name, but because of my work. As the night ended, I looked at him and said, "Thank you." He looked at me with soft eyes and said, "You did this, not me." I believed him. For the first time in my life, I truly believed it. The days continued to pass, and slowly I became used to the rhythm of work. I no longer checked the time every 5 minutes. I no longer counted the hours until the end of the day. Something had changed inside me. I had started to enjoy the feeling of finishing a task, even a small one. When I got things right, it made me feel capable. I had never felt that way before. Not from shopping, not from vacations, not even from compliments. This was different. Every morning, I arrived early. I no longer needed my father to wake me. I packed my own lunch and wore clothes that were comfortable but simple. I didn't need expensive dresses anymore. I didn't care if my bag had a famous name on it. I cared about feeling ready to work, ready to learn, and ready to grow. One morning, my father came to my office. He looked around quietly. Then he sat down in the chair across from mine. For a moment, we didn't say anything. Then he said, "Do you remember the girl who laughed when I asked her about the cost of a plane ticket?" I smiled. "Yes," I said. "I remember her well." He nodded and said, "She's gone now." I looked at him. I didn't know what to say. I just sat quietly. That moment felt heavy, but it was filled with something warm. It felt like respect. Soon after, I was given a new responsibility. I was asked to help manage a small team for a client project. I had never led anyone before. At first, I was nervous. What if I failed? What if they didn't listen to me? But I remembered the workers who had once helped me. I remembered their patience and kindness. So I decided to do the same. I listened to my team. I helped them when they were unsure. I praised them when they did well. Together, we finished the project on time. And it wasn't just good. It was excellent. The client was happy. My father was proud. And I was proud too, not because someone said, "Well done," but because I had earned it. That was the best part. I had put in the hours. I had solved the problems. I had supported my team. I had done it all not as someone's daughter, but as Farah, the worker, the teammate, the leader. One evening, I sat in my office alone. The building was quiet. Most people had gone home. I looked at the empty desks and thought about how much I had changed. I used to think I was strong because I had everything. But now I knew that real strength was something else. Real strength was doing the hard thing when no one was watching. Real strength was showing up day after day, even when you didn't feel like it. Real strength was helping others grow with you. I also began to understand my father in a new way. When I was younger, I thought he had an easy life. I thought his money solved everything. But now, I saw the truth. I saw how hard he worked. I saw how much pressure he carried. He made decisions that affected many lives. He didn't just give me money. He gave me the chance to learn, to fail, and to become someone better. And for that, I would always be grateful. Months passed, and I continued to grow. I attended meetings with my father. He began to ask for my opinion more often. At first, I was afraid to speak, but slowly, I found my voice. I realized that I had good ideas. I realized that I could think clearly and help find solutions. I was no longer just a quiet listener. I was becoming a true part of the company. One day, my father was called away for an urgent trip. He had to leave for several days. Before he left, he gave me his schedule. "You'll take care of these meetings while I'm gone," he said. I froze. I had never led a full day of meetings before, but I nodded. I didn't say I was scared, even though I was. I told myself I could do it. And when the time came, I did. The meetings went well. I stayed calm, listened carefully, and asked the right questions. Some of the staff were surprised, but they saw that I was prepared. I didn't try to be perfect. I just tried to be honest and clear. When my father returned, he asked how everything went. I told him the truth. "It was hard," I said, "but I did my best." He nodded and said, "That's all I ever wanted." That evening we sat on the balcony, watching the sunset. My mother brought us tea. The light was soft, and the city below was quiet. My father looked at me and said, "You have changed." I smiled and said, "So have you." We both laughed. It was a quiet, simple moment, but it felt like a beginning. Later that week, I walked past a group of new interns. One of them asked if I had always worked here. I paused before answering. "No," I said. "I started at the bottom, just like you." They looked surprised. Maybe they had heard stories about me. Maybe they thought I was just the boss's daughter. But I didn't mind. I knew the truth, and I was proud of it. Sometimes I still visited the old market street. I would buy bread from the man who carried the heavy bags. I would wave to the woman who sewed shirts in the small shop. They didn't know me, but I knew them. They were part of the reason I changed. They showed me what real work looked like, and I would never forget that. My life is very different now. I don't wake up late. I don't spend my days shopping. I don't ask for things without thinking. I still have nice clothes. I still enjoy good food. But those things are not the center of my life. What matters now is effort, respect, and honesty. What matters is being part of something bigger than myself. Looking back, I sometimes feel surprised by how far I've come. I remember the girl who laughed when her father asked her to grow up. I remember the girl who didn't know the value of money or time. That girl is gone now. In her place is someone stronger. Someone who knows that work is not a punishment. It is a chance to build something, a chance to grow. If you liked my story, please like, comment, and share. More simple and emotional stories are coming soon.